We would like to begin by recording the session. All right, so to start with our land acknowledgement for our part 3 in our series, New Directions for Business, a Shift Toward the Triple Bottom Line. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are on lands that have been occupied for over 8,000 years. We are gathered on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe Nation, the Petun, and later the traditional territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, and the members of the Three Fires Confederacy, Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe. The Huron-Wendat and the Haudenosaunee nations have also walked this territory over time. These first peoples are the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. This land is also home to many other diverse nations, Inuit and Métis people, both past and present. We are grateful for the opportunity to share in the riches of Southern Georgian Bay and its neighboring territories and to steward this land together. So my name is Jess Flynn, just checking the chat that no one's saying, oh, you're not actually recording or we can't hear you. Thinks we're all good. So I'll dive in. My name is Jess Flynn. I am a consultant serving Southern Georgian Bay businesses and beyond, as well as the founder of the Youth Empowerment Project, which happens to be a social enterprise. So I am especially excited about this particular topic. As I mentioned before the recording started, I've been supporting the Institute on and off over the span of the last 10 months, and I'm so excited by what they have built for all of us. So I started with their Sustainable Futures series and now their Sustainable Economies event series. And there's such power in bringing community together. So the Institute facilitates meaningful conversations and provides avenues to get educated on important topics in our neighborhood across our regions, so that we can all come together and then step up and take action on what we see needs to happen and what we're passionate about. So really, really excited about this topic, New Directions for Business, a Shift Toward the Triple Bottom Line. So this particular event, we are going to provide you with a clear explanation of what a triple bottom line is, what a social enterprise is, and actually the Institute was really helpful in helping me define for my business and my audience what it does mean to be a social enterprise, as well as learn about B Corp. So a few glossary kind of items that we'll get to learn more detail about. Our speakers will also show insights as to why more businesses are wanting to be more socially and environmentally impactful and really needing to be in this day and age. We're of course highlighting some existing social enterprises, including some of our incredible speakers today, that are designed from the beginning to create positive social, environmental, and cultural value. In addition to showcasing the benefits of these enterprises and the value of them as important elements for future economic development, and how can we look at leaders like our panel here to really build out the future vision for our economic development. And of course, all the while weaving ideas of achieving overall sustainable communities by including the ingredient of this type of business, way of doing business. So we're not just here to talk at you. We really want this to be a conversation, an opportunity to collaborate, to get engaged, to share your story. And so we really want you to look to the chat. We'll provide some prompts, but feel free, if you could keep yourself muted just so we can avoid background noise. I have 2 toddlers myself, so I'll be muted if I don't have to be. But to really engage in that chat, and we'll be there to facilitate. We'll be highlighting businesses with the triple bottom line in the region, but we'd love to hear from you to share whether you're a triple bottom line business or if you can share ones that you know of that we should know of. We'll also look to our speakers to tell us what's needed to enable more businesses to make triple bottom line commitments, and would love your feedback and opinions on how that can be facilitated as well. And we're also excited to identify how economic development departments across the region, as well as accelerators, business ecosystems, can help lead this movement. So please enjoy it, like use the chat, enjoy the chat. We'll be here to facilitate you, make sure your speakers, our speakers get your questions. And now I'm going to pass it over to Roz, the chair of the board of directors for the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay.
Great. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome for this exciting conversation, which I was saying to the speakers just before we went public, that this conversation will build on the next and the next and the next, when we're trying to bring the major sectors together to help develop a sustainable future. So many of you know a little bit about the Institute, some of you don't, so welcome. We'll just go through these slides so you get a sense of what it's all about. But basically, the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay is a volunteer-driven, not-for-profit organization in Southern Georgian Bay, which has 6 municipalities. And so the map of that area is on the next slide, and you'll see that we've got Meaford, the town of the Blue Mountains, Grey Highlands, Collingwood, Wasaga Beach, and Clearview, but we know no borders. If people from Owen Sound or Midland or other places and other jurisdictions want to jump on the call, we'd love to have that, because the more knowledge that we can share with each other, the better. Next slide. Our vision and purpose, really to harness this amazing power of people and place in Southern Georgian Bay. There's a lot of talent here. And what we want to do is 3 things. We want to grow social, environmental, and economic prosperity. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, we want to connect people, because there's a lot of land in between us. And so we want to bring people together for these important online discussions. It's a unique platform to do that. We conduct our own research, and we'll be talking about the social finance primer that we'll be sharing with you. And we also share knowledge that we're learning from other towns across the country and around the world. And most importantly, once we get to know each other, once we build our own knowledge base and we're all on a learning curve, we want to foster collaborative projects. We understand that arts and culture, business and innovation, social justice, health and well-being, our environment, they're all interconnected. So we need to spend some upfront time strategizing on how do we make the best tapestry out of the things that are important to us in our life. Next slide, please. So it's all about understanding what our potential partners' objectives are, and then to discuss that and align objectives and build these multi-sector partnerships, because that way there will be more talent at the table, there will be more resources, and we'll probably get to where we want to go more quickly. We're building on a couple of years of programming. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, we had a really great series called Mapping Our Road to Recovery. And this was basically trying to look at potential for the recovery plans that were being developed, and how can we bring new ideas to our towns to accelerate progress and to build an integrated economy where business, not-for-profit, government, and philanthropy are working together. Also that year, Collingwood hosted the UN Habitat and Towns Collingwood World Summit, an amazing initiative. And there were 38 resolution items from that first summit. We decided to focus on 4: affordable housing, environmental challenges, connecting innovative towns and innovation districts, and the potential for 10 regional pilot projects. So that's where we've had our focus, and we've maintained it through 2021 in the Our Sustainable Future online discussion series. We unpacked the Sustainable Development Goal 11. And for those of us who might not be familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, in 2015, Canada and 192 other nations signed on to them. But SDG 11 is where Collingwood put up their hand and said, we want to be a model sustainable community and achieve SDG 11, affordable housing, environmental action, transportation integrated into our region, protecting cultural heritage, protecting natural heritage, and integrated planning together, all the things we need. And so in 2022, we did a deep dive into social finance, and we'll learn more about what that means today, but it certainly includes social enterprises and B corporations. We're also participating in the National Housing Lab with Social Innovation Canada and Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. And we are building a local slate of speakers for the 3rd annual UN Habitat and Towns Collingwood World Summit. Mark your calendars, it's going to be October 31st and November 1st this year. So the contributors to program design, we collaborate with each other across the region. Thank you to Catherine Daw, Eric Ennis, Tanya Cran, Jillian Fairley, Stuart Reed, Mark Shebanidi, Catherine Roflab, Marilyn Struthers, and thanks also to the economic development leads in Collingwood, Blue Mountains, and me for the communications support that we've had. So local sustainable economies. Again, each event builds on each other. This is the third one. If you missed June 1st, where all the chief administration officers from across the region came together to talk about what does sustainability look like to you, the recordings are on our website, www.tisgb.com. June 22nd, we unveiled with the organizations who released two important new housing reports, which had local data for the very first time. The links to those are also on our website. Today, we talk about new directions for business and how do businesses shift in terms of their actions for building social, environmental, and economic prosperity. Next month is the Green Economy Hub that I mentioned. In November, it's the role of arts and culture in local sustainable economies. And in December, we have a very special event where we're looking at multi-sector partnerships and the role of philanthropy. Sustainable development goals that I mentioned, there are 17 of them. We need to achieve the milestones by 2030, so we got lots of work to do. 17 goals, they're all interconnected. So wouldn't it be amazing if every municipality had a matrix for any investment they were making? And how many boxes does that check mark come to in terms of achieving some of these goals? It takes a little bit more upfront strategizing, but the impact is much, much deeper. Collaboration, we could not do it with all of you and our lead partners and our supporting partners. Lead partners include the town of Blue Mountains, Collingwood, Meaford, Grey Highlands, Greenland Consulting Engineers, Living Water Resort, Paul Chapman, RBC Wealth Management, and SHCG Consulting. Our supporting partners include Community Futures, South Georgian Bay, and Clearview Township. Thank you to all of you. So join us, participate, get involved, subscribe to our newsletter, join the conversation through these events, participate in our learning groups or our design teams. And if you're so inclined, please do contribute to supporting our programming so that it remains free for everyone. Now, today's event was inspired by two important initiatives. The Social Finance Primer, I'll put a link into the chat shortly, was published this year on the Institute's website, and it is the Bible for where this intersection between business, not-for-profit, and government is going. The second thing that we were thinking about with this event was the idea discussed at the Collingwood World Summit for a project where we could work with businesses to help achieve the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is a jumping off point. This is an opportunity to say, hey, we could do that. We could do some amazing things together. It's clear that over the last 25 years, nonprofits and charities have become increasingly entrepreneurial. And at the same time, businesses have become more socially and environmentally conscious. So it seems that right now is the most exciting time to bring these sectors together with a growing number of social entrepreneurs to address some of our most pressing challenges. So for the speakers, it is now my great pleasure to first of all introduce Stuart Reed, who will be moderating this evening. Stuart has over 30 years of experience in community service through his leadership in the nonprofit, visual arts, and philanthropic sectors. As Executive Director of Community Foundation Grey Bruce, he's overseeing the expansion of the foundation's work to encompass a more creative use of community assets for local impacts and well-being. In the year ahead, the foundation will be participating in the Investment Readiness Program, supporting social purpose organizations to build their capacity to access social finance and achieve these amazing goals. So over to you, Stuart.
Thank you, Roz, and welcome everybody. I think we're in for a really interesting conversation this afternoon, and I'm very pleased to be invited to moderate. So, like you, I'm going to be listening and learning, and we're going to have lots of opportunity to talk and discuss together, and use the chat to pose questions to our guests. And I want to thank Roz and Jess for that wonderful opening up and that description of the landscape that we're entering into here in Southern Georgian Bay and across Canada, about that opening up of a very dynamic sector that exists on that spectrum between charitable entities and capitalist for-profit businesses, where for making money or giving back is embedded in a mission and a purpose. And our government in Canada is really encouraging that through an initiative called the Social Finance Fund, which is about $755 million is going to be invested in this new burgeoning sector over the next decade. And as Roz mentioned, Community Foundation Grey Bruce has been involved in a rollout of some of that money from the federal government called the Investment Readiness Program. We were part of round one, which happened in 2019-2020. We were giving out non-repayable capital grants to social enterprise across the Central Ontario region, and we worked very closely with partners of Georgian College and at that time the Social Enterprise Network of Central Ontario. And it was a very exciting, wonderful learning experience. And now DING round two, we're entering into this fall another opportunity for funding that we're going to learn about in the coming weeks. But the government has set aside about $50 million to ready more social enterprise for future investment, and also to help a little bit with the coming out of the pandemic and the kind of kickstart and recalibration and pivoting that needs to happen, as we know, as our situation has changed so dramatically over the last couple of years in terms of tech and how we're greeting our public and clients. All of those things have shifted dramatically. So we all need a little bit of help in retooling. Jess, if we could go back a slide. I just did put together a couple of slides just to tell you a little bit about, back a couple more. Yeah, there we are. The Investment Readiness Program, that's the name. And this is one of the flagship messages about the communities coming together to thrive. And in terms of some stats about the IRP, we call it. So we are supporting social purpose organizations as they contribute to solving pressing social, cultural, and environmental challenges across Canada. That's what we've heard in our intro today. And we're hoping to build capacity to participate in growing social finance marketplaces and preparing for broader investment from that social finance fund, which is the $755 million over the next 10 years. And then this fall, we're waiting to hear about the rollout of this $50 million over the next 2 years to help them improve their capacity for success. So this conversation today is so timely, and we're looking forward to sharing more about the IRP in the coming weeks. And as Roz mentioned, a lot of information comes through the Institute's newsletter. You can also sign up for the Community Foundation Grey Bruce newsletter on our website at communityfoundationgraybruce.com. Next slide, Jess. Again, a great mantra here: social enterprises serve the needs of communities all across Canada. It's really an exciting, diverse sector that is addressing all kinds of needs about people, prosperity, and the planet, and with creativity and dynamism that is really inspiring. We're going to hear about that today. Next slide. So coming out of our work with social enterprise, the foundation that I work for, Community Foundation Grey Bruce, and a part of a network of 200 community foundations across the country, we're looking for ways to make our endowed assets work locally. And next slide, Jess. We're introducing another thing. There's one called social impact investing here somewhere. We're looking at ways of deploying our community assets in creative ways locally for local impact. So that means opening up, and there's a couple of stats on the next slide, I think. Yeah, there we are. So we're making 1% of our total net assets available for social impact investing. So that's addressing social or environmental needs with the expectation of a measurable social as well as a financial return. So what we usually invest all of our endowed assets in the global marketplace. So what we're doing is making a little envelope of that available for us to deploy locally for creative impact in our own community. And that can be through loans or investment or granting in very creative ways. So we're dipping our toe into this social enterprise field in that way with our assets. So this also aligns directly with our vital signs work. And if you've been on the Institute's calls, you know how the Institute's been very an important partner in our vital signs work. Particularly, we released a vital focus on housing report back in May. And you can read all those on our website as well. I encourage you to do that. It gives us community knowledge for which to grant strategically. And also it frames some of our initiatives like social impact investing as well, to identifying need and looking at measurable impact as we move forward strategically. And our website's listed on the bottom there. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about how the Community Foundation is responding to this opportunity and is poised to be a supporter of many of the creative initiatives and social enterprise and B Corps and that kind of activity that we're seeing burgeoning in our communities across the country. So it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers today, and we're looking forward to presentations from a diversity of perspectives. And first up, we have Jackie Rushlow, and Jackie is involved with a really interesting operation called the Keep Refillery, which has 3 locations in Creemore, Meaford, and Kingston. Jackie is very passionate about sustainability. She's the founder of this business that is helping to reduce plastic pollution. And their mission is to rid the world of single-use plastic, one community at a time, by way of refilling all of your home and personal care needs in their facility. And her thriving business is filling the need for a growing number of residents who want to reduce their own environmental impacts and support a sustainable future. So a very noble service that's being offered for you to get rid of all that plastic we buy at the regular supermarket and refill reusable containers with wonderful products. So really interesting social enterprise. So welcome, Jackie, and we're looking forward to your remarks today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stuart. I always love hearing when somebody else introduces you. It's like, you're like, oh, well, I am doing a good job. So yeah, my name's Jackie. I'm the founder of the Keep Refillery. We have 3 locations at the moment. We have one in, we have one in Creemore, one in Meaford, and one in Kingston. So outside of our South Georgian Bay area, but I figured the East needed them as well. So the first thing I want to tell you guys is what a refillery is. So it's all based around the idea of never throwing away that laundry jug ever again, but instead bringing it into us. We weigh it, we fill it with all natural, biodegradable, Canadian-made products that actually work. And then you only pay for what's inside. So it's both cost effective, but also super, super, super friendly to plastic pollution. So we have everything from hand soap to dish soap to laundry detergent, deodorant, toothpaste, facial exfoliates, literally everything to keep you and your home clean. You can refill with us. The other thing is that everything is microplastic free as well. So one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is how much pollution comes from all that filler that's inside of those terribly chemically products like Tides and the sorts. So this goes back. So this is my husband and I. He's a man behind the woman. God love him. I literally woke up one day. I'm a television producer. He's a director, and I said, you know what? Like, we need a refillery. I can't go plastic free for all this online shipping of me getting shampoo bars and conditioner bars. My carbon footprint was just canceling itself out. So it was just as bad as buying plastic. So I woke up and I said to my husband, we should open a refillery. And he said, yes. And I was like, what? He's normally the one that always sort of, just give it a sec, Jack, and we'll go from there. He knew straight away that this is the way of our future, as did I. So at this point, we have quit our jobs in television and have dedicated our entire lives to the mission. So we always say that we are a mission first, business second organization. If we're always making decisions that are for our mission, everything else will fall in line. So we've stayed we've managed to stay very, very true to that. I always tell people when they come in the shop, I'm not doing this because I need to have a store. I'm doing this because we need our communities, one community at a time, to rally and make that change. And so we've become very, very aware of the fact that all of our futures, they're all within our own grasp, and it all starts at our community level. So what sets us apart from other refilleries that are starting to open up? No offense, but all refilleries are great. I mean, it's better than not refilling for sure. But one of the main things that I said as soon as I said we're going to have a refillery is we need to close the loop. So this is that bottom line that everybody keeps talking about. Like, how do we make sure that we're as as a circular economy as possible? So we hold every single supplier that we deal with responsible for their waste. What that means is when you refill, I refill. So these big containers that are inside our store, they get empty, our new containers come in, they take the old containers, and so the circle is closed. Of course, community is one of our main goals. Everything happens, as I just said, everything happens from within. Change happens from within. Education and accountability it's probably one of the most important aspects of what being my type of entrepreneur is. My job isn't selling you stuff. My job is to educate you on why you need to change your lifestyle habits, and also be accountable for it. So when you walk into a grocery store and you look at a bag of apples, you got to ask yourself, is there an alternative to this product? Can I buy something that's not covered in plastic? When you walk into the refillery, it's like, you can say like, oh, this is the alternative, isn't it? So instead of getting, a plastic sponge, maybe you're going to get an agave one. So, and then the next question you always want to ask yourself is, what happens to this when I'm done with it? Like, of the two questions that anyone could ever ask themselves to live a more sustainable life, these are the two most important questions. So you got to educate yourself, or come to me and I'll educate you. And you also need to be accountable for what you're consuming. This is what we're systematically trying to do, is change the way consumers behave. And then kindness, like we're all in this together, right? Like we need to be kind to one another. There's no shaming if you're not refilling, or even if you never even knew about this before, it's okay. Let's be kind to each other. Let's be kind to our environment. We can close that loop in kindness as well, right? So why am I doing this? Why are my husband and I literally dedicating? He literally just ran in. He was running the shop. He's like, I gotta go. We're setting up for the board meeting tomorrow. It's a whole thing. Well, why? Why work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, constantly? Because we have to. Nearly 3 million kilograms of plastic waste is generated every day in Canada. That's disgusting. We can stop that. The ban that was just put into effect is 6 items, stir sticks, straws, the items that like I don't even imagine using anyway. But when those 6 items are banned, which is happening in December, it will eliminate 10 million garbage bags from the landfill over the next 10 years. Just by eliminating plastic bags, plastic straws, plastic cutlery. So imagine what you could do by refilling all the plastic you already have to not let it hit the landfill. 86% of waste ends up in the landfill. So only 9% of plastics are actually recycled, which is why this actually became our mission in life, and our purpose in life is when we learned that, we went down rabbit holes and couldn't get out. The other real problem is how much of that 80% of it is in our Great Lakes. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly want, the kids of our future to be able to swim in our lakes, to eat our fish, to do all those things that we get to do. And if we keep going the way that we're going, I just don't know if that's going to happen. So as I said, our mission is to change the way consumers behave. If we can do that, we can really start to affect change. We've kept, so I think our number right now, because I have all the refilleries doing the math on it, which is basically every single refill that happens and every single non-plastic alternative product that we send, we count, that we sell, we count. So we've saved, I think we're at about 72,000 pieces of plastic since opening 2 years ago in a wee tiny, I opened in a little tire shed in Creemore, Ontario. Brendan, I remember being on calls with you actually inside of that shed. And so up until now, we're at this like giant number. And so whenever I think to myself, like, what impact are we making? Like, is this enough? It's like, let's just remember all those, you know, stats and all those numbers, right? Like one foot after the other. We have successfully changed the consumption habits of, we're at about 6,500 customers right now. So 6,500 households, whether they're just changing out their shampoo and conditioner, maybe they're just changing their hand soap. I don't care, you know, at least that laundry jug that takes 450 years to decompose is not ending up in the landfill. So the future for us and our corporation is, obviously we want you to come in. The Refillery is like a hub in a community. Everybody congregates there. Everybody talks about what they like, what, you know, it's like really going back to like the old school general store days, right? And you go in and you fill up and you feel great about it. We're also online, of course. So we have a lot of stuff like laundry strips, which are concentrated strips of laundry detergent. We can ship easily. We plant a tree every time that we ship as well to offset our carbon footprint. You can get cleaning tablets, so just little tabs. You add water inside of your bottle, shake it up. Now you can clean stainless steel, kitchen and bathroom, multi-purpose, windows, all that sort of stuff. And then one really amazing thing that my husband and I have decided that we want to sort of conquer as well is the hospitality industry. So they're actually making up 9% of all waste in our landfills with those pesky little bottles of shampoo and conditioner and body wash. That stuff gets used once, if that, and then tossed. So we're hoping, and we're on the way of doing so, is partnering up with hotels. So whether they're boutique hotels, whether they're Airbnbs, I know that a lot of you have probably even been to them and seen the keep in there. We set up little refill stations for everybody. And they now can refill all of their stuff and not create all that plastic waste. So we got a lot of interest from people who wanted to invest with us. So overall, our plan is to open one more corporate location in Toronto. So we'll have 4 corporate locations and then we'll begin franchising. So our goal is literally to be in every single community nationwide. That's what we think is actually going to make that change. So we have the former head of sustainability and global marketing, Nicole Volbrett, who was at Adidas. She found us one day in Creemore and said, I need to get involved. And we started talking to her and she said, listen, if you want somebody who's going to help you with scalability and supply chain, you should talk to Christine Day, who's the former CEO of Lululemon and was sort of on the ground level with Howard Schultz when Starbucks got started. And then we've got Paul Hollins, who's going to help us sort of like navigate the franchising and expansion world. So when he joined A&W as the CEO there, I think A&W was at like 45 restaurants. And by the time he left, they were at something like 700. My numbers are always wrong. And my husband's the one who's really good at those sorts of stats, but it's something like that. Either way, he is the king of franchise. So between us and them, we're hoping to be everywhere.
Wow, that's so impressive. Thank you, Jackie. It's amazing to hear about the gesture of what you're doing too, because it's not just it's really the true social enterprise ethic about, you know, people creating community and getting engaged with people and education, and then prosperity, the plans you have for the future and expansion and serving other centers, and then, you know, the amazing contribution you're making to the planet too. Just by diverting and avoiding all of that plastic creation. I did have one question emerging, you know, from what you described. You know, the bottles and the things are one thing, but how much of your time do you have to spend kind of researching the products that go inside? I know they're all plastic free. Do you get into some kind of ecological or other discussions with the companies that are supplying the stuff you're filling with?
Stuart, that's such a good question, and something that I think I should actually be putting into this. It's intense. I always say I would hate to try to get into our refillery, because we put people, like we put other entrepreneurs who are making these products through the ringer. So again, it's mission first. So everything has to come down to checking the boxes, down to what are they shipping in? Are they planting anything for all the trees? Are they donating to anything that's going to offset their carbon footprint? Does their product work? This is a huge one, because if it doesn't work, you're going back to your Windex. You're going back to your Tide. So if I'm trying to get you to change your lifestyle onto a product, if it doesn't work, my mission is null and void, right? So again, every decision that we make comes back to the mission. So the research process, we probably get, say, 5 emails a week from people who are, trying to get their shampoo and conditioner bars in, maybe new liquids, laundry detergents, dish soaps, you name it. One of the things that we highly, highly focus on are small women entrepreneurs. So for example, Penny Lane in Meaford, this is just a perfect example. So she makes all these really great organic soaps and facial cleansers and all these sorts of things. We brought her into Meaford. So she closes the loop. Of course, we hold her responsible for all of her waste. But then I brought her into Creemore, and then I brought her into Kingston, and now I'm going to bring her into Toronto. And then when we franchise and hold control of the supply chain, which we will obviously do, she blows up, right? And so that's the same thing that we want to create for all of our entrepreneurs that we stock.
So you're engaging people in a whole ecology of social enterprise, and I love to hear how that's ricocheting down the chain. And yeah, you're making some amazing things.
Yeah, and this is also a person who didn't care really if she was giving away plastic or glass or whatever. So now, by way of us holding her responsible for that, she's changed her supply chains down the line to her other customers as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It's inspiring.
Thank you.
And I'm going to keep our conversation rolling along, because we've got another 3 guests. So if you have questions for,
I'm sorry, I just tried to hit mute and it made the recording stop. Sorry.
Are we okay? Jess gave us a thumbs up. Okay. So our next speaker, we're going to move along to Jacqueline Tuckey, and Jacqueline comes to us from Barristan Law, and she is the chair of Barristan's B Corp committee. So we're going to hear a little bit about B Corps. And the Barristan firm believes in using business as a force for good, which is what originally motivated the company to undergo the B Corp assessment and continue to improve the way they operate as a firm and member for their communities. Jacqueline practices law in the areas of civil and commercial litigation, with a particular focus on construction law, and has experience obtaining favorable outcomes for her clients through negotiation, litigation, mediation, arbitration, and adjudication. That's a lot of shuns. So welcome, Jacqueline. We're really interested to hear about your work and your engagement with B Corps.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And thank you, Roz and Jess and the Institute for having us. It's fantastic to be here today. And Jackie, thank you for sharing your story. Stuart's right, it's very inspirational, and it sounds like you've had a great influence on the community. So it's great to hear. As Stuart said, I'm Jacqueline Tuckey. I work as a civil litigator with Barristan Law, and my presentation will be focused on B corporations and what it means to be a B corporation. So the definition of a B corporation is a business that meets the highest standards of verified social, environmental performance, and public transparency, as well as legal accountability. So the whole overall goal is summarized as balancing profit with purpose. So in order to be recognized as a B corporation, we had to go through, and every corporation has to go through, a rigorous assessment that looks at 5 main aspects of the company. So they look at your governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. We were required to provide proof of our policies, our financials, several different pieces of documentation. They really look into the evidence to back up what you're saying that you do, and you need to meet a score of 80 to pass. So essentially, you weigh every single business decision, B corporations weigh every single business decision that we make in order to consider its impact on our people, our clients, and our communities. The process requires that we recertify every 3 years. So Barriston just finished our recertification application about a month or two ago. So we're hoping to hear back from that shortly. It is, as I said, a pretty rigorous process. So it takes them a little while to get through it. And we were really aiming to improve our score this year as compared with 3 years ago when we were originally certified. Just a quick stat, there are over 4,000 V corporations in the world right now. They sit in more than 70 countries and over 150 industries. So it really is an initiative that's kind of taking off. So we sort of became a B Corp by accident. Our managing partner, Joanne McPhail, attended a session at the Sandbox Center, downtown Barrie, that many of you may be familiar with. And the topic was social shift. So it focused on businesses focusing on more than just profits and how consumers were starting to support businesses based on their ethics and their choices. Joanne, together with our COO and our finance manager, decided to start going through the B Corp impact assessment. They didn't really think that we were going to be certified as a B corporation on the first go around, but they wanted to see where we fell on the scale and whether it would be a realistic goal to achieve. As they were going through this, they realized quickly that our firm was already doing quite a few B Corp-ish things with our business, but that we still did have quite a ways to go. We became passionate about how we could be a better business, how we could make decisions that were about more than just the profit of our business, and how that would impact, again, our people, our clients, and our communities. We put together a team of people to work on the assessment all summer that year. And we accidentally pressed submit at one point and began the process of compiling and providing all of our proof for the actions and the values for the B Corp assessment team to review. And then after that, we officially became B Corp certified on August 2nd of 2019. We were the first law firm in Ontario and the third within Canada to become B Corp certified. So that leads us into the misconception about B Corp certifications. There aren't a lot of businesses in our industry that have pursued this because a lot of people think that it's meant more for businesses that manufacture or sell goods, because that's where a lot of people think of the environmental impact of things. And you know, we've come to accept concepts such as fair trade and sustainable farming, which deal with that industry. Nevertheless, Barriston is really passionate about, and I personally am really passionate about educating others on why it's important for businesses in all sectors to consider their impact and not necessarily to undergo the B Corp certification process, but at least to use it as a guideline and become more B Corp-ish. So that's what made the B Corp certification process and the assessment so well-rounded, is that it's more than just an environmental impact. Imagine a community where every business considers the impact their decisions have on their employees, their clients, and their community. I think it would be a society full of people with a living wage, earning a living wage and feeling valued in their workplace, supporting local businesses and feeling confident in the services they receive and proud of the products that they're buying and that they're providing to others through work, doing their part to protect and enjoy the parks and public spaces around us, and being able to enjoy thriving local organizations with resources to support all members of the community, no matter where the sector lies. Social movements are all about momentum, and we believe that the more businesses that get involved in this and talk about it, and the more that we advertise that we're B Corp and others ask us about the B Corp process and what it means to be B Corp certified, the more people and businesses will understand what it means and feel the need to get involved. Again, whether it's becoming B Corp certified or just looking into what the values mean and maybe supporting B Corp businesses or becoming more B Corp-ish themselves. By operating as a better business, you're not just a drop in the ocean. I think that you're actively contributing to a better world by inspiring others, as Jackie has done. We at Barriston seek to ensure that our entire team understands what it means to be a socially responsible business. And that's something that remains, and for that to continue on with the firm in the future, even as we grow and we see changes to our team or our direction. For this reason, we involve staff and lawyers from each of our 4 offices and every department within those offices. We love that it's a movement from within, something that many of our team members are passionate about. It's not just a direction that came from above and something that our managing partner sought to do. It's something that she explored and introduced to us, and a lot of people were interested in becoming involved and in perpetuating our B Corp certification and teaching others about it. We're fortunate enough to have a B Corp committee, which features usually, I think, 8 to 10 people, depending on sort of the time of year and the cycle. And so that committee works to drive conversations, to produce ideas for how we can do better, but it also lets us hear the voices of different people from within the firm. So we've got partners and managers and C-suite executives within the committee, but we've also got associate lawyers and staff and students that sit on the committee that all have different ideas about how they would like to be treated as members of the firm and how they would like to see us engage with our community and with our customers. We focus in the community on our 3 to 5 year plans. And as Stuart said, I am chair of the committee currently. So we meet regularly about once a month to discuss our progress and what more we could be doing. So yes, we've met the B Corp standards. We were certified. We probably could be recertified on the same standards. But as I said, we really wanted to improve our score this year. And the certification process and the assessment sets out a lot of different areas that have inspired us to explore improvements within our firm that we might not have otherwise considered. And that being said, people within the firm don't have to be within the committee to help. We really encourage people within the firm to actively engage in the community. It's absolutely not a requirement, but we have we keep track of our firm involvement and the involvement of our individuals, whether it's donating blood or picking up garbage or knitting blankets for dogs at the SPCA. We have a ton of different types of member involvement that really give back to the community. And we like to track that and really encourage our team members to be involved in that. And we incentivize leadership and making connections within the community and are constantly canvassing our team, the entire firm, to hear their thoughts and their suggestions. We think that involving the entire firm helps to lead to systemic change, which is something else that was really important to us. We didn't want to just find low-hanging fruit and make quick fixes that might lead to a certain score to get us certified. We understand that in order to create the change that we want, we need to incorporate the B Corp certification and status into everything that we do and every decision that we make. It's really easy to fall back into old habits, and changing the way you think takes time. So we hold each other accountable, and the committee's there as sort of a backbone, but the firm holds us and each other accountable to sort of toe the mission line, as Jackie said. An example of this is when we make decisions on how we want to spend our marketing dollars, we're no longer looking exclusively for the option that gives us the most return on investment. This is still obviously an important consideration because we're a business and we need to be profitable to continue. But now we incorporate options that also support community organizations or better environmental decisions. So instead of doing all of our brand awareness marketing through Google Ads, for example, we support a lot of local fundraisers and initiatives where our logo will be seen with people within our community, and where people have an opportunity to go out and chat with attendees and get really involved, and then hear the feedback that the community wants to see in a local business or a local law firm. B Corp forces us to think outside of the box. It's not enough anymore for us to say that's out of our hands or that's too difficult. Being B Corp certified, we've committed to finding ways to create change and to perpetuate that change. So another example is that Barriston rents most of our office spaces, so we don't have a lot of control over our energy use or how the buildings have been produced or maintained. But it didn't stop us from wanting to reduce our carbon footprint, because given that we couldn't reduce our usage, we sought a way to compensate for that. So we partnered with an organization called Carbon Zero that some of you may be familiar with. And they helped us to determine what our overall carbon output is on an annual basis, considering all factors through all of our offices. And we committed to offsetting that by making donations to one of their projects, in our case, the Niagara Escarpment Project in the Blue Mountain area. And our donations to that project are sufficient to offset the negative impact our energy use has on the environment. And so it's been enough that we've been declared carbon neutral by Carbon Zero. So that's something that we're really proud of. And it's an extra step that we took where we were inspired by the B Corp status and by the B Corp messaging to get to the next level. So rather than being as green as we could, we thought, okay, can we hit that next level? Can we become carbon neutral? And we were able to get there. So there's a lot that we've done and there's a lot more that we can do. And as chair of the committee, I'm really looking forward to continuing to explore that with our committee and with our firm. And my contact information is on the screen. So if at any time anyone's interested in hearing more about the B Corp process or what it means to be B Corp certified, please don't hesitate to reach out and I'd be happy to chat anytime.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Wow, it's really fascinating. It sounds as though you've really engaged the whole company in that ethic of people, prosperity, and planet. Do you have you articulated particular impacts that you're measuring as you move forward in your work as a B Corp?
There are several different types of impact that we can and do measure. So the environmental impact is obviously one of them, and we've gone through that. Another really important piece of our analysis in our impact assessment is our impact on our people. So our staff, our lawyers, we're constantly sending out surveys. We're constantly asking what we can do to be better. We're looking to improve employee satisfaction and staff satisfaction. The firm is very engaged employee-wise. So we do a ton of events together. We also really foster a good work-life balance, and we see that reflected in our surveys. And obviously there's always room for improvement. So we'll receive feedback and then we'll meet again to discuss how we can improve whatever the area is that we're looking to improve. And then we also monitor our community engagement and how that improves and how that reflects. And ultimately, again, a lot of people and businesses attending today probably want to know how it would impact their business and their bottom line. And we're finding more and more that we're getting not only talent, a lot of our students and a lot of people applying to Barriston are noting that we're B Corp certified and that's part of the reason that they've applied, which gets us fantastic candidates. But we're also getting quite a few clients now who are learning about B Corp certification and who are really interested in supporting a firm that does balance the community they live in and the environment and our staff and our people. So there are quite a few impact measurements that we conduct on an ongoing basis, and all of them have come back very positive, and we've seen great growth in all areas.
Amazing. Well, it's really a growing trend that B Corp certification is something consumers look for, and congratulations on your firm's work, and it's very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to shift along now to Ellie Green. And Ellie has over 20 years of project-based work experiences supporting nonprofits and emerging organizations pursuing innovation, social enterprise, social procurement, and impact-driven work. Ellie's work was key to the success of Georgian College's Center for Changemaking and Social Innovation programs, including the Social Enterprise Network of Central Ontario, which I mentioned earlier. And Ellie's been an amazing knowledge resource for the Community Foundation Grey Bruce in our work on not just the investment readiness program, but also our social impact investing. And she's also been engaged with the Community Benefit Purchasing Project in partnership with Ashoka Canada. Ellie was going to share insights from recent projects focusing on strategic clarity and impact measurement, which are essential components for every organization in looking at how they make a positive impact. So welcome, Ellie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Stuart. And thanks, everybody, for having me. It's pretty exciting to be here and to hear some of the other speakers. Jacqueline, the social shift event that kicked off Joanne's venture was an initiative that I was a part of planning. So it's amazing when the years go by to see how pieces can evolve and how the community can grow and build and continue to change. So it's so very exciting to hear everything you all have shared so far. Here's my contact info. You can check out the website I've created. There's a team who works with me, and there's a bunch of projects with tons of detail on there if you're interested to learn a little bit more. Here's my 5-minute agenda. I know we're supposed to keep it quite short. So here's what I'm hoping to tackle. And I'm presenting it to you in a bit of a teacher format since I have moved into teaching a few more courses at the college, including social entrepreneurship, community practice, community benefit, or community development for the social service worker, ECE, and also in gen ed. So that's something that I've been moving a little bit more into. I've also had the chance over the stretch of years during the pandemic to do some coaching and consulting with individual not-for-profits and social enterprises. I've also taken on some of that work through the McConnell Foundation Interweave initiative, so both independent and also through that funding program. The two projects that I also included here that Stuart also spoke to in the introduction, the Community Benefit Purchasing Project, I was the lead of that. It's a project that was focused on social procurement. It was based here in the region of Central Ontario, and partners of that project were Ashoka Canada, who are national, and we looped in with all sorts of change maker campuses. So Ashoka designates academic institutions as change makers, and there's a handful of academic institutions across Canada exploring that. So we got to work with them in that piece as well as engaging with the local community. And then Senko, the Social Enterprise Network of Central Ontario, I had the opportunity to launch and lead that initiative out of the college for a stretch of years, which is where we just discussed some of the key pieces of the IRP and all sorts of amazing events and engagement, a lot of awareness events across the region to build understanding and as to what is social enterprise. There's lots more you can read. I'm focused in lots of different ways and really passionate about this work. So I wanted to focus today on something that's come up really recently quite often, and that's strategic clarity and impact measurement. So I mentioned the McConnell Foundation and the Interweave program. They provide coaching to organizations all across Canada, and they cover it. They have social enterprise, coaching stream. They also have a strategic clarity and impact measurement stream, and it's a stream that takes organizations through several months of coaching. And the result of that is to build out key components to help you measure your impact, specifically looking to not-for-profits and social enterprises, not the for-profit structure. So organizations often have, their vision, mission, values, they have a strat plan in place, but an impact statement, a theory of change, and or just a simple logic model are key components to help folks begin measuring their impact. So this is where I'm going to dive in. So as we look at measuring impact, it's really important to consider change or impact frameworks that exist so that we can take the impact that you are creating within your organization or initiative and roll them up and connect them to bigger frameworks or common frameworks or historical or future frameworks. So I'm going to do a quick look at this, at each of these that are listed here on this slide. So we already touched on, thanks Roz, the SDGs. So the SDGs are a great global framework that any organization can consider, focus in on a goal or two or more, and start mapping the impact and the work that they're doing to that goal. When you go on the SDG website, you can do a deep dive into how they define each of these goals, the work that's being done, reports completed, targets that have been set. So there's a lot you can dive into, but you can also keep it pretty high level. Another framework here is the Community Capital Framework, and this came from BiSocial Canada and some of our work with them. They're based out of Vancouver, and they do a lot of work in social procurement. So when you look at this framework, it's really interesting because this session's about the triple bottom line, but here you can see, they have brought in that economics, so that profit. Then we start talking about the people, the human and the social, and then also cultural and physical. So when you consider this framework, you're mapping the impact, the change, the value you're creating to each of these pillars. So the next one here, a screenshot of the Community Foundation, Stuart Grey Bruce location, and the vital signs. So another way for organizations to begin getting clear on the change and the impact that they're looking to make is to look at past reports, an indication of change that needs to be made. And so a really great example is the Vital Signs report. There's other organizations as well that do a lot of research and community engagement to be able to point to areas that organizations, entrepreneurs need to focus, their attention for change to be created. So we can look at vital signs and past reports and signs. There's also another way to look at this, and that's future. So when we talk about the 21st century skills or future skills, these are what we need in place. This is what we need in place looking ahead for the change that we want to exist to be realized. So in my work at Georgian College, we talk a lot about the students and the skill sets that they need so that the world that they're moving into and that we want to see can be realized. So the 21st century skills set is a really great way for organizations to think into the future and start creating either products, services that then create the impact in this way. So we went from global to community, past to future. And I think another thing that's really important for any organization is to consider who is the beneficiary. So we need to look at the impact that's being created by or within the organization, but a lot of social enterprises, a lot of not-for-profits are focused on making change to an individual group or a beneficiary. So for us to be able to say, I've changed the life of an individual or a group, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And so the Sustainable Livelihoods Framework, the Canadian Women's Foundation uses it, and it's a really great framework that allows staff within an organization to work with clients, to work with their beneficiaries, to do a pre and post, where you work with them to say, where are your assets at when we look at, your finance, your social, your personal, your physical, and your human assets. What do you have, and how can our programs or services support you to build out your sustainability, your livelihood in each of these areas? So this is a really great framework that's available for organizations to consider if they're looking to work with individuals. And what's really neat is if this can be used consistently, this data can then be rolled up to the organization level, where you can have not just metrics, but actual asset areas or sustainability built into people's lives. So frameworks exist to help us identify and get clear about the impact that we're making or needs to be made. And essentially, then we have the opportunity to start measuring it. And an impact statement is one of the best starting points. And an impact statement is a single statement that organizations can refine and essentially begin measuring their impact. I'll talk a little bit more about it in the next slide. The theory of change is something that is a visual diagram that I encourage pretty much every organization I work with to consider. It takes a stretch of time. It takes a lot of work, drafts, engagement with the community, your beneficiary, your staff, some evaluation, reworking, and working docs to get there. So it's another great way to get clear on what you're doing and then be able to have a framework to measure your impact. A logic model is another great tool. To be able to create and use those docs or tools, it's really important to be able to map who your beneficiary is, and a beneficiary persona template is a really great way to do that. You also need to take the time to do your org charts, like who is in your organization, what are their roles, responsibilities, interconnected components, what is your organization look like? And if you are a social enterprise, I think every organization I work with is engaged in some kind of enterprise activity. I really encourage folks to dive into the business model canvas to get familiar with key business terms and how your product, services, or interventions are essentially falling within them. I don't have examples of all of these to share, but you could Google all of these, and that's why I've included them on this slide. Just to talk a little bit more about the intended impact statement or an impact statement and the theory of change. It's a little blurry, my apology. An intended impact statement identifies both an organization's target audience, the outcome it seeks, the change in behavior or knowledge or status quo its programs or activities are defined to affect, and it also has a specific time frame. So an example here is by 2018, adults residents in priority neighborhoods of Bathurst, Finch, Lawrence Heights, and Weston will have increased knowledge, skills, connections, confidence to settle, thrive, and lead in building vibrant communities. So it's a real mouthful when you get your impact statement done, but it has your time frame, it has your beneficiary, it has your location, it has the impact you're looking to have, and essentially the outcomes that are a result of that. And so this becomes something that you can then work towards mapping both metrics as well as impact created. The theory of change, like I said, it takes a little bit more of a process. It is an amazing one-page visual that usually is an illustration, and it's a tool that anyone in your organization can look at and say, this is what we do, here's where I fit, and here's the change, the ultimate impact that our organization is looking to have. There's so much to say on everything I've just shared. It's kind of, I know there's a ton of terms in there. There's a lot of just terminology. So I apologize for that, but I wanted to include it so folks can really reference this on their own time and do a deep dive that might be helpful for them. But I wanted to leave you with just one really practical potential next step, and this is the logic model. So I actually include this in a course that I teach. So here you have a few of my teaching slides. So this is a very simple example of a logic model in action. You have your inputs, $100, car keys. An activity, this is a conversation between a father and a daughter who says, I want $100 and some car keys. What for? To go to the mall. What are the outputs? What for? I'm gonna buy a pair of high top sneakers. And then the first iteration of a video that goes with this, the father says to the daughter, for what? Because I want to look cool. And he says, forget it. I'm not going to give that to you. So then you go through the whole thing again. And the daughter says, well, I'm going to be more active. I have bad ankles. I won't twist my ankle. And I'm going to join a team. So I'm going to be way more engaged at school. And then the father's like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And then what's going to happen because of that? Well, I'm going to be way healthier. I'm going to be, far more successful at school and in academics down the road, leading to employment and so forth. So I walk you through this simple example. Reasons. One, it's really clear. Folks can generally understand it. It's a great example for a team to then take either a program, a product, or a service and to map it out. The other thing that's amazing for a tool like this, if you are on the opposite side and you're looking to fund an organization, that first example of we need this, this, and this because we want to look cool, because we just need it, because we don't have enough funds, because, those real simple, not well thought out answers, as funders, you're like, oh, shoot, we know you might need it, but you got to think this through. So the short-term and long-term outcomes, organizations being really clear about that allows them the opportunity to measure it, but it really allows them the opportunity to move into, increased funding, investment, scaling the impact they're having. And yeah, so I also included one last one here, which is a little more relevant to the social service sector. It's an example with a training program. And I just wanted to highlight two things here. The organization here is focused on children. So when we talk about the primary beneficiary, it's children in this for this organization. But what they then recognized is that by changing the parents, we will change the lives of the children. So this example, I think, is really helpful for folks to see how a secondary beneficiary can show up in this type of tool, because often when we get to the complexities of not-for-profits and social enterprise organizations, it's not just like that last slide. So this is another amazing example. And then I've included a template here for anybody interested to map out their own logic model. So that's my talking as fast as possible, as much information as possible on pressing things that are coming up with organizations that I'm working with for you all.
That's beautiful, Ellie. Thank you. And that real practical example is just so illuminating. I'm really curious, we heard, Jackie described that first impetus of like, oh my God, why we're using all this plastic? How do we get around this? Like, do you see this kind of clarity of purpose? Is that at every stage in terms of the evolution of a social enterprise, or do you think it's more about the maturation when you are looking for to enhance your resources with new funders or build larger networks? I'm curious
When does it
about.
show up? Yeah, no, it was really amazing to hear Jackie's presentation, because it was a perfect demonstration of an organization who's gotten really clear and who has been able to identify both short-term outcomes as well as long-term alignment. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I've engaged show up with passion and purpose, and potentially don't know how to map it to a framework that exists in our sector. And I think it just takes, it's kind of like going to school. It's taking something and putting it into a specific structure that I think is really important and required. What I have seen just this past year, we worked with an organization, and they said, this is killing my brain. This process is so hard. And I was like, it's all there. You have all shared with me these components. We need to map it like this so that you have the terminology, you can answer questions to investors, funders, on your grant applications and so forth. So sorry, Stuart, I'm going off here. It doesn't always show up this clear. I think folks feel it and know it, but the steps to map it out is usually a bit of a pulling teeth kind of process. That is, at the end, they're very, very grateful they have, and it gives them a tool moving forward.
So that kind of reckoning, I could see how that clarity of purpose and that articulation of why we're doing what we're doing and the impact we're aiming for, it must just open up all kinds of doors and just fuel all the relationships that we've heard about from the other presenters too, that it's not just one entity. You're really creating ripples right across the whole ecosystem of business.
And it is not easy.
Enterprise. No, I'm
Yeah. And it's important, I think, even for the beneficiaries, your staff as well, within the organization. It gives people clarity and a sense of purpose. And I know Jacqueline talked about that B Corp process, and I didn't get into that as it falls more in the for-profit side, but it sounds like that also unfolded there.
Beautiful. Well, we're going to move on to our last speaker, and aptly called, Catherine's organization is called Catapult, so we're going to springboard into the final part of our discussion. But it's really interesting to hear from Catherine Love, who is working at Catapult Grey Bruce, which is propelling opportunities at home by empowering established entrepreneurs with connections, knowledge, and space to take their business to the next level. So really incubating the kind of activity we're talking about. So located at the Sydenham campus in Owen Sound, it's like unlike any in the Blue Water region. It's the perfect place for like-minded business owners to gather, to learn, to get new ideas to grow their business. So really interested to your weighing into the conversation, Catherine. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I have to reiterate some of the points about Jackie and the keep. I mean, you do have such clarity on your business, and coming into your business for the first time even, and talking about the products like having to work. I had gone to so many other refillery businesses, and just that experience itself, you totally have nailed it. And I'm so excited to see how your business grows.
Thank you so much for saying that. It means a lot.
As a customer, and then also this is, so that's great. And so I follow like similar suit as Ellie, where when I was asked to think about the triple bottom line in businesses for people, planet, and profit, I really wanted to take a step back and see how far we've come. Because 20 years ago, entrepreneurs really had access to libraries, their chamber of commerce, and their banks. But as Stuart mentioned at the beginning of this session, the federal government has done a great job of supporting entrepreneurs and recognizing their contribution to communities and their ability to address economic challenges. And we've seen some great examples of that today. When you look at our ecosystem across Grey and Bruce and Simcoe County, and small communities throughout Canada, really, they're supported by a number of organizations. So Community Futures, the Center for Business, accelerators, and then tailored programs really for every industry. So, there's Venture Park, which is run by Arlene Dickinson for food-based entrepreneurs in Toronto. There's Communitech in Waterloo for fintech and health tech and other tech-based businesses. And then, of course, regional incubators like us at Catapult. So what we found really in working with businesses in that growth stage and also supporting the Centers for Business is that a lot of businesses are starting to consider not just their profit, but also their cause. And you'll hear a lot of entrepreneurs talking about or referring to this as their why, and really they've integrated it into their business model. So I thought it would be helpful just not to talk about conceptually what that looks like, but a few businesses across Grey and Bruce that have actually are practicing and like Jackie, have built that into their business model. So one of them is the Conscious Kitchen. If you haven't tried their food yet, they deliver plant-based meals to your door. They source food locally and work with Eat Local Grey Bruce and other food co-ops. They have reusable packaging, so you get your meals all pre-packaged and then you send those empty containers back. They're sanitized and your meals come back again the following week. So their passion for food really and the environment is at the forefront of their business. The second one I wanted to talk about is Sapsagin, and so they're a mobile water sport rental business with a social enterprise component. So they're working with nonprofits and local organizations in the outdoor education space. And the last one is the Youth Empowerment Project. So it's an online learning platform for youth to explore entrepreneurship and build confidence in their career choices. The program changes the conversation from what do you want to do when you grow up to what interests you. And even if you think about that for yourself, if you were asked 100 times over the course of your young life, what interests you instead of what you want to do when you grow up, how your career path would be different. So through the Youth Empowerment Project, you can sponsor young students in our community, all while supporting a local business. So we have those three examples. There's certainly a lot more. And like I mentioned, it seems to be a trend that there's small businesses starting and incorporating that social enterprise just into their mission and vision, short and long term, and those plans. So Canada's really run on small businesses. And when we look at the value and that contribution to our communities, 98% of all businesses have less than 20 employees. So that's 69% of all jobs and 50% of our GDP. So when we support small businesses and align our values with our businesses, the result really is that full, vibrant downtown, more local choices for consumers, jobs for our kids and our grandkids, and community resources, culture, and so much more. So like Roz shared at the beginning, certainly, there's lots of ways to get involved and to continue the conversation. You can serve on a board like Catapult or the Institute. You can join our mailing list and attend local events such as this one. We have a very strong mentorship program at Catapult where we pair young businesses with seasoned entrepreneurs. So there's the opportunity to work with us in a volunteer capacity there. And then in the fall, we're launching a founder circle. So it's a successful model. This program is running in Muskoka where a community fund is created. And then those that money is allocated to early stage startups to really support those ventures. So so thank you very much for having me, and feel free to pop any questions in the chat.
Thank you, Catherine. That's really interesting. And I know Catapult is really a Kickstarter for lots of activity. Do you want to just talk for a moment just about, is social enterprise something that is, top of mind when you're talking to people about business opportunities? I'm also curious about, the changing nature of work these days too, and how that might figure into discussions about social enterprise as an option for people.
Yeah, I would say for us, like businesses are coming to us already with that social enterprise component, either built in or they're contemplating it. And so I think in the past, it was really a nonprofit or for-profit, and those were the two pathways. And what we're seeing now is the for-profit, but also with that social enterprise component, and really that impact on the community is so incredible. You were seeing, like I mentioned, the Youth Empowerment Project, and Jess Flynn, who kicked off this meeting, and that impact that it will have on young entrepreneurs or even young people and their career choices. And the ISUP Saugeen, she's running her mobile sports rental business, but then also having an impact in outdoor education for youth as well. And so it's, to me, it's already being built in and thought of, and then from there it's just how to grow and scale those businesses.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So
Thanks,
Jess, do we have some questions coming in from the chat box that we
haven't had many questions, so I encourage you, if you have any questions for our speakers. I think part of it is maybe they've done such an incredible job educating us today. I think even just let us know what you're taking away, or if there's something you want to implement in your business, and just celebrate everything that we have going on. And many of you touched on the amount of work. It can seem so insurmountable to make the kind of change we need to see, but then when we reflect on where we've come from, especially in our area, we are making the right moves. So we did have one question from Anne that Jacqueline actually answered in the chat, which was around do B Corps get preferred tax status as a result of their model? So Jacqueline, if you just want to maybe just quickly recap how you answered that in the chat for all of us.
Certainly, yeah. Thanks for the question, Anne. As far as I'm aware, I don't believe that we do. I don't think that's something that's available to us in Canada. I think that that's more readily available in countries like the United States. But I am not a tax lawyer or an accountant, and I am fortunate enough to have our CFO on our committee handling most of that. So if anyone wants clarification on that, please feel free to shoot me an email. I did add my email address to the chat, and I can follow up on that with our CFO.
That's great, Jacqueline. I was aware, I think I was aware that they get it in the United States, but I didn't know whether that had come up to Canada.
I don't think, I'm hoping that it'll come around eventually. I think that it would be great to really incentivize businesses to take these steps. But as far as I'm aware, as of right now, we don't have it.
Yeah.
I was also curious about the B Corp status. Can a corporation or a company opt in for like the 3-year period with a particular goal in mind, like maybe lowering their carbon footprint, or is that an option, or once you're in for perpetuity?
No, you can absolutely, you are certified for 3 years, so you have to undergo the whole thing. I don't think that there's any kind of partial B Corp certification, so you're undergoing the whole process. And if you're in for 3 years and then you're not finding that you want to go through the assessment process again, then there's no need for you to do that, and you just won't be recertified. But it's for us, I think, as far as I'm aware, again, I've been fortunate enough to have a whole team, so there are a lot of different working members here, but as far as I'm aware, a lot of the answers that we had to the assessment the first time around were sort of auto-filled. So if we wanted to be recertified, there were very minor confirmations that we had to make to say, yes, this is still true, or this has improved, or it has decreased. And then I think it would have been fairly straightforward to be recertified after our initial certification.
I'm just curious, it might be really great incentive to have a C or a D or a Z Corp where you could opt in for a certain period of time to maybe tackle an issue and give companies an option of dedicating and talking to consumers in different ways too during that window of time when they're dedicated to certain outcomes.
Absolutely. And I think that Carbon Zero helps to provide a sort of avenue for businesses that are looking to tackle the environmental aspect of their operations. And I don't know if there are similar organizations that operate to facilitate a better community impact or a better a better staff environment. I think that there are in different capacities. I mean, you've got HR firms that really help to improve staff relations, and you've got all kinds of organizations these days that foster better community involvement. So I think that there are different creative ways to get involved on the more specific areas that you're mentioning.
Yeah, there were some other questions about how to get certified, but I think it's a big journey. And Brandon, actually, I'm going to throw this to you in the room as the founder of the Foundry in Collingwood, working with many business owners, small businesses in the Collingwood area. This would be a great event on its own, is to learn more about getting B Corp certified, what it means, so that businesses can plan, like your corporate structure is a component of the certification. So people in their earlier years, or looking towards a reorg, could get some great data. So this is what's great about these conversations, and I'm just conscious of time too, is that we're introducing each other to the right people. These are the people you need to know about. These are the initiatives going on. I myself have learned so much and have a long personal list of things to do for our business. But then it's up to each of us to then follow up and create that ripple effect after these calls. So with that said, learning about the work that the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay is doing is really, they have their ear to the ground in these really important areas for sustainable futures, sustainable economies. So I'm going to now put the link to either join them as a program partner or business partner, so that this type of free education and community gathering can continue to happen, as well as get on the newsletter so you don't miss any more of these events. The next one, October 19th, I'm trying to copy and paste while I chat, is on a green economy hub, and what that is, why we want one, and what the benefits to our region will be. So another phenomenal event to attend, definitely for our speakers and anyone who attended this event. Very relevant, very connected to today's topic. So thank you everyone so much. I will throw it over to Ross for final comments. And if you do come up with any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, contact at tisgb.com or to any of the speakers this evening. You're muted.
Thanks so much, Jess. I really appreciate having you as a co-host. So thank you for that. And thank you for all the work that you're doing with our youth. I really want to give a big round of applause to all of our speakers, to Stuart, Jackie, Jacqueline, Ellie, and Catherine. We have learned so much. I know that there was a question I threw into the chat, which was, if we were 10 times bolder here in Southern Georgian Bay, what would we be doing to nurture more of these kinds of enterprises? And so we came up with some good ideas. Thank you. It was like a separate event on how to get B Corp certification, or have a founders circle or community fund that could help support new ventures. So these are the kinds of things that we harvest through these gatherings, and we will be coming back to you, all of you likely, for more information about how we might roll some new ideas into 2023 programming. I also want to thank all of our partners again that I mentioned at the beginning of this event. They are very important to all of us, and we like to put their logos up on our website. You can check up our website for all kinds of reports, including the social finance primer that we put into the chat a couple of times. So take your time. All of the recordings of the events are there. So I think that I've mentioned everything that I was supposed to do. So thank you all. Let's stay connected. Building this social capital is important for future initiatives. Have a wonderful evening, and hopefully we'll see you on October 19th. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.